A clear win for parental rights and a setback for the school district. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of Maryland parents who sued the Montgomery County Public School District to have their children opt out from public school lessons using LGBTQ plus storybooks. Joining us now is Erica Downs, chair of the Education Opportunity for America First Policy Institute and founder of and chairperson of Optima Ed. Thank you so much, Erica. It's always good talking to you here. Let's start with what happened in this Maryland case and the decision that came to the Supreme Court. What do you think of this overall? Do you think that this decision, it draws a clear line between school authority and parental rights?
Well, absolutely. The Supreme Court made it clear now that parents are in control of what their children read and learn, regardless of what type of school they attend. The government cannot infringe upon the parent's right to dictate whether something that is in opposition to that parent's religious beliefs can be indoctrinated into their child because they're in a public school. And we have to remember that this case was brought because too many parents in this community in Maryland wanted to opt out of these inappropriate lessons.
And remember, these were LGBTQ storybooks, I believe, in this case, concerning this case. But you had Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who wrote in dissent, kind of overall, that exposure to different views in a multicultural society is a critical feature of public schools. Now, what do you think? Do you think this, though, could open the door to people saying, hey, I don't want my kids to learn other portions of history, whether it's Martin Luther King's speech or whatever it may be?
Well, that's a ridiculous assertion. We haven't seen any lawsuits from parents over teaching different viewpoints in history, whether it's communism, Marxism versus capitalism. That has been taught in our schools for many, many years without lawsuits. This was a teaching of an ideology as if it were the only viewpoint, not as if it were an alternate viewpoint, and in an age inappropriate manner, which parents, of course, took objection to. So this is not about teaching alternate viewpoints. This is about indoctrination of students and parents objecting to that indoctrination.
And that's what some parents were worried about who were opposed to this, that it would go further and actually extend to history and other teaching lessons when it comes to school. Now, this ruling is not the final decision in this matter, as the case will head back to the lower courts for further review. What do you think is going to happen here? Do you think that the lower courts are going to, side with the Supreme Court? Do you think they're going to go in a different direction?
I believe that the lower courts are going to agree with the opinion of the Supreme Court. And in fact, I think we will see many more cases like this as parents realize that it is now their constitutional right to opt out of these types of lessons. But as a former school board member, I've also seen districts and schools double down on their intent to inflict this ideology amongst their student population.
There was something that just popped up on your screen there, Erica. I don't know if you can see it.
I think this may be on your screen.
Oh, there we go. It's off now. But before we go, because you and I have talked about this in the past, what do you think that parents should be on the lookout for when it comes to curriculum and other assignments in their child's school? Because you have this one ruling for the Supreme Court. So moving forward, and you and I have talked about this, what do you think they should be on the lookout for?
Well, this is incredibly important for parents to understand. They actually not only have the right to opt out, but in order to opt out, you have to have the transparency of seeing what is in the curriculum. So parents should demand that transparency from their schools and school districts, because we have many schools and districts that are still not allowing parents to see what curriculum, what instructional materials are taught in their schools, perhaps even what library books are in the public school libraries. So parents need to use this ruling to say, you know what, in order to opt out, we have to know what's in the classroom and take their right to the school boards in this case.
Let me ask you a quick question. I've always been curious about this. Do you think it's better to have an opt-in, like instead of an opt-out? Because opt-in, tell me the difference here. You actually can, it's more preventative where you don't have you're not automatically put into a certain class, right? So do you think one is better than the other, an opt-in or an opt-out?
Absolutely, especially when it comes to controversial teaching, sexual education, and things like this. It's much better to have parents opt into those services. However, having seen this historically, school districts don't want that. Certainly not when it comes to sex education. This has been a huge topic of conversation, opt-in versus opt-out. But we should, as parents, assert our rights to opt in to controversial teaching, not be on us to opt out of things that shouldn't really be taught to our kids.
All right, Chair of Education Opportunity for America First Policy Institute and founder and chairperson of Optima Ed, Erica Downs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Appreciate it.
No problem.